Okay, so now we'll start again. So again, I'm Donna Ward with the League of Women Voters from the Montclair area, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. And we have two candidates who are running for the South Ward Town Council in Newark with the election, which will be held on May 10th coming up. And those two people are Douglas Freeman and Cynthia Truitt-Reese. So I think usually how we start with these formats, we're just going to rotate back and forth. I'm going to offer you each an opportunity to start with a 2-minute, just an opening statement. And if I think you're running out of time, I will just hold up this yellow pad and then you'll know to bring your remarks to a close. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good, great. Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Freeman. Just introduce yourself. What is your professional background? And just give us a 2-minute opening statement as to why you're running for town council for the South.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invite to Douglas Freeman, C6 on the ballot. Been a resident of Newark for quite some time. Been very active in the community. Also a graduate of Weequahic High School. Also, I was a shop steward in a utility company for over 15 years. Been an advocate in the community where I volunteer quite a few of my time in dealing with governmental issues, residential issues, utility issues, also with restoration of parks, dealing with homelessness, dealing with the different components within the community. I have spent a tremendous amount of time at freeholder meetings, speaking on behalf of the community, bringing in different type of capital improvement projects in the community as a resident, as an advocate, also as a district leader, and qualified to represent the South Ward of Brook. Definitely been working with the Port Authority, the Choice Neighborhood neighborhood agreement that's been put in place in 2012 that wasn't implemented. So when we look at the South Ward has a lot of different components. So it's about footwork. It's about the activities that need to get done. We've been out here for quite some time. So definitely we want to have the opportunity to interview for the job, because a lot of people say running for the job. I'm interviewing for the job. I'm qualified, I'm motivated, and I already put over 30,000 hours of volunteerism time in the South Ward for the last 10 years. And you can see the improvements from Weequahic Park, advocated with the seniors, from the senior programs, making sure that they have sweat equity and know their value and understand that in this community, the value of the grassroots organizations, because that's what I'm running for, which is interviewing. Let me change that again. Interviewing for the grassroots organizations that are qualified to put this South Ward neighborhood back together like it used to be, and to bring us back forward to where we need to be, through prosperity. That's what I'm running and interviewing for. And Cynthia, you have it next.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. And now, yes, Ms. Freeman, now it's your turn for your introduction.
Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Cynthia Truitt-Reese, and I am also interviewing / running for the South Ward Council seat. Actually, be the first woman to be elected. To the South Ward. I'm a native Newarker and native of the South Ward, born and raised here, educated Newark Public School, also a graduate of Weequahic High School, a property owner and homeowner for over 25 years in the South Ward, also a former district leader for District South 41 for over 5 years. Always been involved in community at a young age, following my mom's footsteps as being a 30+ year district leader in South Ward, and also PTA president, and stayed on after her children graduated. She stayed on as a consultant to the upcoming and newcoming PTA members, and served as a consultant for them, and always been involved in the community, around the community. She's been a pillar in the community So I simulate my mom as being a community advocate, speaking on behalf of the community, part of many grassroots organizations of the South Ward, a part of many block associations of the South Ward, and also tenant association. I am the former chief of staff for Councilman John Sharp James, where I actually ran the office from 2014 to 2018, the full day-to-day operations of the municipal council office, and just heavily involved with the community as far as listening to the concerns and issues that plague our community. Growing up here, I've seen the plight that our community have gone through and what we're still going through and what we need to be able to come out of this, and bring it back to a community first ward that it used to be. The South Ward was always united, but right now we're like split in so many different ways. But we're just plagued with a lot of negativity, and it's time for somebody to stand up and represent the people in the way they need to be represented.
I'll stop you right there. Thank you so much, Mr. Reese, for that introduction, and to both of you. And before we go on, I should have, I was remiss in giving credit to the Civic Association that's sponsoring this little forum tonight, and that is the White Terrace, Clinton Place, West Runyon Power to the People Civic Association. And thank you, Sister Bay, for inviting us and for holding this tonight, since we've already mentioned civic associations tonight. So let's move on to the next question. And again, these are coming from members of the Civics Association and tenants in the housing complexes. And somebody said, there are many residents who really aren't familiar with the role or the duty of a council person. Can you explain it, please? Maybe Ms. Truett Reese, will start with you first.
Yes, well, the role of the council person is first to be the voice for the community, to listen to the concerns and the issues that plague the community or whatever their concerns are. And also you are to do legislation for the community on behalf of the community and the administration, to regulate how things need to be, and you bring it to the council meetings, and that's when you have a unified vote, whether it's going to be yay or nay or abstain. It's about finding out the issues and addressing the issues in the appropriate manner, where everything is fair and equal to both the constituents and also to the administration. We provide and we create ordinances and laws that wouldn't just abide by the ward, but throughout the city. We are the balancing of the mayor's administration. You have to have checks and balances, and that's what the council actually is. We are to be the check and the balance for the administration. We can't always agree with the administration, and we can't always disagree, but we as the municipal council have to come to a balance of what's good and equal to the residents of the city of Newark.
Okay. Mr. Freeman. Sorry, you're muted, Mr. Freeman. Could you just unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just want to just mirror some of the details that Cynthia Reese brought forth. Is, definitely it's a check and balance of legislation, to make sure that legislation is passed for the benefit of the residents, right? So, you must, and also, to bring in businesses and different type of amenities to the community. So the council person is the representative of the people. Sometimes we get a little mixed up with the council person's position. Some people feel that the council person is supposed to be the one to take care of all of the amenities and things and problems that the residents are asking, and you're supposed to do it for them. That's not what a council person is not supposed to do. So a council person is to know your block associations. You need to know if they have speed bump problems. You need to know if they where that speed bump needs to be put at. Not just to say that it needs to go to an engineering department to see if they need to survey the block to see if a child may get hit. You should know that there's 40 children on this block. There's speeding cars coming down this location. You should know how many shuttered stores is in your neighborhood, right? So before you could pass any legislation or any drafts or anything that you put forth, you need to know how it's going to affect that community. So we could pass legislation all day long, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the benefit of the community, right? So if we put a traffic light in the middle of a street and you know that there's no cars coming that way, it's a waste. But if there's congestion down the street, you should know that, okay, we need that traffic light there. We also need to know, like if you look at Fabian Place, you have cars parked on the sidewalks. So when we talk about the checks and balances, right, why is there still cars parked on the sidewalks when we know it should be a one-way? These are the odd things that the council person should know about their community. And the next thing the council person is for and should always be for the residents, but you should not be a person who creates stagnation in your community. See, when you create stagnation in your community and you think that loyalty, I see it, and loyalty needs to be of you, that's where we go wrong. See, you need to be the checks and balances, not always agreeing with the mayor, but agreeing with what's necessary for the community. And that's why I feel that I don't need to repeat what Cynthia's saying because she's very versed in this, and so am I. So just want to let you know that we both know what we're doing here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Next question, and this will first go back to you, Mr. Freeman. How would you notify the residents of new developments coming into their community?
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a hot topic, especially with me, especially being with the self-boarding project, and there was task force of each different component, and one was for housing, one was for education, and then there was other ones that was done. This was very successful, but what I did find out is when you put a liaison in the middle of that, it don't work, right? So one is the social media piece. Yes, that is key. But there's also a component that we need to make sure that we go to the boards of these different organizations. But see, when you deal with these block associations, you got to also understand the politics of block associations. So some of that information that can be passed on to these block associations gets stuck at the person who got an ego problem as a president. So you also have to figure out, do they actually give the information to the neighborhood? So with that, we have to create two locations, one being in the Clinton Hill, one being in the Weekway section, where there'll be an aide at the Clinton Hill section to 365 days of the year, and then there's another one on 365 days in the Weekway section. See, we believe that people need to go all the way downtown, and then you go into what I call the corridor of knowing everybody's information. That means you're signing in with the police officer who's at the door. You go down this hallway, and everybody's talking about everybody's business right then and there, and then nothing gets put out to the community. But that aide is going to be that person that knows each zone, because you have the police zones, then you have the district zones. So that person will know what seniors are living on what block, because when you look at the emergencies that take place, you need to know who's on dialysis. You need to know who's have a double amputee or one leg amputee. You need to know who's on oxygen just in case the lights go out. These are things that we did during the Sandy storm. Okay, I see it. So these are things that we did during the Sandy storm, but it just wasn't continued, to identify and categorize, who lives in the neighborhood. So that's how you give out information. You got to know your neighborhood. You got to know the people in your neighborhood, and you have to talk to people. And that's what we've been doing for a long time, for over 10 years.
Thank you. Ms. Reese.
Yes, ma'am. Well, my response to that is when bringing new development into a community, first and foremost, before any new development comes in, we need to address the community first, the surrounding area, inform them of what is possible to be coming into their community. They need to have a voice, whether it's accepted or not, or just come to a general consensus of this is what it is and this is why this particular area was chosen for this. And at that point, we need to also have community come out to the zoning board meetings, come out to the planning board meetings, have town hall meetings so we can discuss this prior to it coming to fruition. And so we can hear their concerns up front and try to address them, and give them some input on what they want to see in their community. A lot of decisions are made and they go right past the council person's office, because it's done through economic and housing and development. It's not done directly from the council office. Any new development comes through administration, but out of respect, it needs to come into the council office. So the council person is being brought up to par and being aware of what's coming on so they can possibly communicate that to that community. Depending on, let's say if it's a housing project or something coming in, we need to do traffic studies to see how the impact of traffic will, how it will affect the already existing community. The parking, how will it impact the parking of the residents that's already there? These are the type of things we have to bring to the table before any final decisions are made. And like I said, that's how you inform the community. You bring them to the table and we have open discussions.
Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Reese. Sorry, that was my timer going off. Okay, the next question is a little bit more elaborate, so I'd like to give you each 3 minutes to answer this. And we'll start again with Mr. Freeman. As either a homeowner, property management, or renter, what 3 key issues do you believe are facing the residents in the South Ward, and how do you propose to improve them?
Okay, thank you. For all 3, one is the blight, and that's coming from the properties that are burnt down. That's one of the issues. The garbage, the neighborhood is very dirty right now. That's another issue that's concerning. When you look at the property values, that's the biggest investment when you look at your home, because I am a homeowner, and that's an investment. So, you could pick any place to live and you want to make sure that when you purchase a home, you want your family to be raised in a neighborhood, which I call urban suburban, right? So what we can do with this, one is to identify when there's a fire, right? To make sure that we identify, how long is that structure is going to stay in that condition. Because I went to the Clinton Hill area and I seen multiple houses burnt down. And then there's wires hanging in the neighborhood off the telephone poles. So one, we have to deal with the blight. That's to put together the committee to go around and investigate why these areas is the way they are. We do know that there's development that's taking place. So we have to create a community investment. I call it like a club, but it's not really a club, right? It's more like a hedge fund, right? So it's a community hedge fund though of residents. And that's where we buy these properties. We're always looking for developers to come in to see if they're going to buy these properties. So what we can do is we take the properties, and even if you invested $5 or you invested $5,000, you have shares that of value into this particular component. And we're buying these properties, restoring these properties. But what we're also doing is training the residents, our youth, and others on how to build these houses back. So it's more than just a matter of fact of just taking care of the neighborhood, of just the property buildup. But you're also building it up. We're building up the fund, and then we're also taking care of individuals who may have some financial difficulties, right? Because it's invested by the residents. It's taken care of by the residents. This is a fund by the residents that can help them with their tax liens that they have, and people we can pay off their tax liens, but they pay back into the fund, and then they become owners of this fund too. So there's a lot of different ways that we can move and bring the youth involved, to cleaning up the neighborhood. So it's what we already are doing now. So, some of the things I'm speaking about is already in place, but as the council person, we can actually organize it in a more fashionable way, because it's hard to get everybody on the same page. So we have to all be in the same room. We all have to have the same ideas. That's the business owners need to understand their place in the community. The homeowners need to understand their place in the community, and the LLCs need to understand their place in the community too. You cannot be invisible to our community and helping to reduce the value of the houses of the owners of that have invested in these properties. So there's multiple ways we can do it. And I seen the card. So there's multiple ways we can do it. There's ways we already are doing it, but the main thing is to and keep a fluctual role into the value of the person's property, to make sure that if they invested in it, that they get the return that they need.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Ms. Truitt-Reese.
Can you repeat that question for me?
Sure, absolutely. As either a homeowner, property management, or renter, what three key issues do you believe are facing the residents in the South Ward, and how do you propose to improve it?
Okay, well, being a homeowner and also a property owner in the South Ward, the first thing you have to do, you have to address the issue that we have that is definitely plaguing our community, which is the absentee landlords. We have to come together, and first of all, you have to know who your neighbors are. We have to come back to community policing. We have to come back to respecting your neighbor and your surroundings. And we have to identify the issues that plague our community. One issue that we're having that is going rampant is we are commercializing our residential areas. You have landlords or developers or property owners purchasing these properties, and they're cutting the houses, the properties up, and making rooming houses or making Airbnbs. That is not appropriate in a residential neighborhood, because we need stability in our neighborhoods right now. That's what these communities used to be. They were family-oriented, stable households. When you bring in rooming homes, you're dealing with transient people in and out, in and out. There's no stability. You don't get to know who your neighbor are. You don't know who they are. They're in and out, in and out. And it's a flux of people. You don't know what's going on. So we have to bring that up to the forefront. Airbnbs are short-term hotel rentals, let's say. Again, that's not showing stability. That's a fluctuation in your community. We have to bring back home ownership. And also, as far as renters, what's going on now is that the rents are going so high that they're outpricing the residents that's here. So we have to somehow get a median or some type of cap on rental properties. There has to be a cap. Right now, let's say with COVID that has happened, and people at loss of jobs, loss of income, they can't sustain their rents. Right now, if you are in an apartment and your rent is $1,600 and you make $15 to $18 an hour, you can't afford that. You have to decide whether or not your family is going to eat or pay rent or pay a car payment. You're not able to do everything that you need. So something is going to have to suffer. So We have to bring some type of stability back into the community. We have to look at our blighted homes and areas like Mr. Freeman said, and find out why are these conditionings happening in our neighborhood. And the first thing is because we are not saying anything. We cannot allow and continue to allow certain things to happen in our neighborhood and just sit by and not say anything.
And I'll stop you there. And I'll stop you right there. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Okay. That's the we're out of time. But we'll start back up again with you on the next question. Okay.
Okay.
There are many South Ward streets that are in need of repaving. What is it that you as a council person can do to assist residents regarding this issue?
Okay, well, when the last when I was in the council office, when it came to street paving, a list came out every year of maybe 5 to 7 streets that were possibility per ward that could be paved. And I do remember at the time, the council person had an option, I think, of 3 streets that they was able to choose to be paved. Now with that, I think, of course, it should be the most severe streets, but I would not just go by a list that's sent to me. I myself would go and travel those streets myself to see what the conditions are. And if I know there was some other streets that were in worse condition than those would go to the top of my list as my choice to be paved. These are your taxpayer dollars. These are your property taxes that you pay for. So we deserve to have clear streets, smooth streets. Too many times I hear of cars being damaged because of potholes. And again, that's a lawsuit for the city. So if we can somehow curtail that and stop it by picking the most severe streets and doing our due diligence, that's what we need to do. And if it's possible, we can move some monies from one line item to another line item to give us more leverage to do more streets. That's what I think we should do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Freeman.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia is correct on the amount that are actually allocated when you look at the paving, but we have to also focus on how do we get these potholes, right? So when you look at Jersey City, I know that they have a ordinance in place for the utility companies. When they go to dig up, newly paved streets that are less than maybe, I think it's like 5 years old, and they go in and they start digging up the streets and they do cold patch. Or they may try to do a hot patch, but they mostly do the cold patch. And that's how we be getting these paving potholes. And honestly, when I know that there was a ruling back in the day where they had to repave whole. And that's what we need to force the utility companies to do now, is to repave whole. So if you come in, like right now, we just paved some streets in the South Port of Newark. PSNG has decided to put in some new gas lines. And then they have dug up these new paved streets. And now we will have the potential of potholes. So to put in the ordinance and have it passed through the council and have the mayor sign this legislation, that the utility companies who come in and dig up our streets after we have paid all this hard-earned taxpayer money to make sure that it's paved, they come dig it up, you put it back. And that's how we can start to get some of these streets back to being whole again. Because a lot of the things was done by, potholes were done by utility companies. We have to have a utility committee of residents, right? A committee that is ensured to make sure that these utility companies do more than just collect our money. They take care of our community that they serve. And that's how we hold them responsible. So when they do wrong, and we have in this legislation that if they are digging up these streets, then not only do they pave one, but they give us another one on credit. And that means something that we're not paying for. And they take care of 2 streets versus 1. That's how I see it. Because being in a utility field for quite some time, that's something that I'm definitely going to be for, is to monitor the gas company, the electric company, the cable company, and the telephone company. So we're going to make sure that they take care of our community as a community that serve, and that's our urban, suburban South Florida.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Okay, moving on to the next question, and we'll start again with Ms. Truitt-Reese. What is your position with the existing nonprofit organizations in the community?
Well, my position with that, first of all, what I would want to do, no, what I am going to do, I would like to have a quarterly roundtable meeting with all the nonprofits within South Ward, bring everybody to the table, and let's see who's doing what, how monies is allocated, and do a desk audit for each one to actually see how much money is coming in, what's being spent, how it's being dispersed. Second of all, I would like to see how many of the organizations are doing duplicate services. We have a lot of resources, but if you have multiple sources to go by, we need to somehow streamline that and bring in other branches that we're not really focused on, like financial literacy, more adult training programs, more teenage training programs, pre-literacy, trades programs, and try to streamline and look into the things that the community needs. We all know we need some type of rental assistance. Somebody's going to need it. We know we're going to need utility assistance with bills. We know that. But why do we have to have 6 and 7 organizations doing the same thing? That means they're all pulling for one grant. And it's not enough to be dispersed out. So somebody is not going to get something. So if we can streamline the different organizations and have them come together and work with each other and do a referral within themselves, where this agency can refer to another agency. Well, we handle this. This agency handles that. You have a better chance to get your needs supplied. Because other than that, you're looking at a pie of 8, and 8 people are striving for it, instead of one person working on one thing as a priority, another organization working on another piece as priority, and then we can help more with less. But this way, you're so short where you're not able to assist the way you really need to be. We're not being efficient in the disbursement of funds and how things are allocated. So that's the main thing I would like to do.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Sure. What's your position with the existing nonprofit organizations in the community?
Some of them are not existent. And that's something that I have seen over the last 10 years. The majority of the work in our community actually is done by volunteers and people who care about our community. And that's that sweat equity piece that I keep speaking about. These are the ones who, some of them are unemployed, low employed, and retired, and they always volunteer in their time. You know, there's a devaluation of the residents who value donate their time, right? So we know that national average is $34.60 an hour, but we never hear these organizations actually acknowledge these people who volunteer. When we look at, there's multiple organizations doing food. There's multiple organizations doing youth and recreation, but they don't work together. So that our thing is to bring everybody to the table and see how much community support do you really have? Because a lot of these nonprofits, as of right now, have become bona fide social clubs, and they only concerned about their little circle. And how do I know that? Because I've been out here for 10 years. And it put in over 30,000 hours of volunteerism time, and many of them didn't even want to work with me, or the people who also volunteered and put over 100,000 hours of volunteerism time in this neighborhood, and they didn't want to work with them, but they wanted to want everybody to volunteer for them though. And then we know that in these grants that they also have services that they are supposed to provide. But what they're doing is asking for volunteers to do these services while they put this in their pocket and it goes outside of the city of Newark. All right. So we've been taking care of other people's communities. They've been writing grants and they come in and say that they're going to consult us, but then they turn around and find organizations to take the money and not do the services. And the residents have been doing many of these services for themselves. How do I know? Because we created a South Note page on Facebook and we friended so many people, but we actually was just surveying and seeing how much could get done without them going to government or going to other organizations. And believe it or not, most of these issues from fire victims, from mothers that needed diapers and residents needing homes was actually done by the residents, right? So these organizations only came into play when the residents tried to move a little step higher to do something that was needed. And these organizations come in, they band together to try to eradicate the residents from doing what they need to do as people. The people is the actual nonprofit. That's what we need to do is keep the people moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll start back up with you again, Mr. Freeman. What are you willing to do to assist existing South Ward merchants?
I'm glad you brought that one up. So that's called Airport Newark City, right? So when you look at the airport, that's an aerotropolis concept. Jacksonville has an aerotropolis. Atlanta has an aerotropolis. There's a place in Australia that has an aerotropolis. And this is how you bring in money to the businesses. One, you have to increase the business commerce, right? So, the Chamber of Commerce used to be real popular, but it's not as much as it is now. There is one downtown Newark that's blooming, but not in the South Ward of Newark. So when you look at the airport brings in over 43 million people a year. I just heard the numbers on the Port Authority today of the passenger population that comes into here, and it's bringing over $200 million just for that portion alone. The park cars is bringing over $100 million just to park cars and parking lots and things. So now when you look at this, we have to have access to that airport, access to the hotels. But to do that, we need to create tourism. We need to go back to the concept of having that aquarium that we asked for to be put there in the South Ward of Newark. Why? Because that's an attraction. We need to have hotels. We need to have bowling alleys. We don't need scrap cars. We don't need the things or trucks parking wherever they can park at in our neighborhood. We need the business owners to understand not only can you have a store on Burger Street, but you can have a new store right there with a limited credit usage right there on Freelandheiser Avenue, where you can bring in different buses and it's owned by the community to go back and forth, like if you was going to Costa Rica or Dominican Republic. Those neighborhoods within those areas, they may be foreigners, but at the end of the day, they work together to build their community up. So in order to have a business corridor, the businesses must understand why they need to support the youth programs, the senior programs, and the youth programs and the senior programs need to understand why you need to be working with the businesses. And that's how you improve your business corridors, by businesses understanding why they're there, and then most of them need to be locally owned.
Fine. Thank you very much. Ms. Truitt-Reese.
Yes, one thing I definitely would want to do is to build a South Ward Merchants Association, which I would interact and have quarterly meetings with all the store owners. We first have to find out about the store owners. What do they have to offer, and what are they offering to give back to the communities? Because they are, as much as we may not like to accept it, they are part of the community. And we do patronize them. So first we have to bridge that relationship. We have to get a relationship with these store owners, and find out what type of issues are they facing within the community, whether they live here or not? What issues are they facing? Are they facing crime? Are they facing uh, substandard conditions or issues? What are they dealing with? Because a lot of store owners, they only rent the store. They don't own the building. So what issues are they having? And also having them do something where they have to give back to the community. And interact with the community because they are a viable part of the community. We need to find out some issues, concerns, and address their concerns also because they pay taxes, make sure their licenses and everything is up to par as if you would do a landlord. And just make sure that they are in total compliance of the needs and the issues that surrounds them, and hold them accountable for what goes on in and around their stores as we would anybody else. But
Thank you. Thank you. I think we'll bring that to a close. Thank you, Ms. Truitt-Reese. Also, Ms. Truitt-Reese, is there a light that you can use, because your face has now gone into darkness on the screen?
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you need.
Oh, sure,
yeah, it's
no
just
problem.
yeah. That's if just maybe we'll just stop if you don't mind, Mr. Freeman, just for her to get a light.
Is this a little better?
Just a little, yeah, there you go. That's better. Yeah, I just don't want you talking in the dark. I want to have you both see your smiling faces. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Ms. Truitt-Reese. Now we'll start with you again, Ms. Truitt-Reese, and this is a quick question. Are you willing to have regularly scheduled meetings with the community?
Absolutely. Yes, I am. I will have a monthly scheduled meetings.
Great. Mr. Freeman.
Yes, I am. Also, I'm willing to put together a cohort where the community organizations and the residents can pair up together, so that it's not just one meeting. It's like committees of different areas of concern, so that when we have these meetings, we're not just talking at each other.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We'll start again with Ms. Truitt-Reese. What organizations do you have any affiliations with?
Oh, wow. I am currently a Silver Life member of the Newark branch of the NAACP, and I'm also executive board member there with that organization. I am a 25-year member of the South District Police Relations Council, where I've held multiple executive board positions, and I'm currently the first vice president. I am a member of the National Federation of Colored Women's Club. I am a member of Zonta's Women's International of Essex County, which is a women's empowerment international organization. I am a member of Bethune Grand Chapter, OES, Order of Eastern Stars, Lady Martha #2. I am a member of, oh my God, so many, multiple block associations and tenant associations throughout the South Ward. I'm a member of Weequahic High School alumni, affiliate with Weequahic Park Sports Authority, affiliate of Clinton Hill Block Club Coalition, affiliate of Clinton Hill Concerned Citizens Association, affiliate of Historic Weequahic Neighborhood Association, and a host of other associations throughout the South Ward.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
How you doing? I'm a member of the South Ward of Newark, right? And that also includes all the different organizations that I have assisted with over the years. Some of them are the same as Cynthia Reese has mentioned. When you look at the South Ward Community Police Relations, I was a vice president also with Cynthia. She's also there too. She's now moved up. I'm looking to come back on that particular board. Also with Weekday Park Sports Start, I'm president. Also, Essex County Parks League. That's another organization that I'm a part of. I'm a part of the Weekway alumni also because I graduated out of Weekway. There's a lot I have been assistance with as far as Vulcan Pioneers, the fire department. Hold on, there's some backfeed. One second. Hello? Okay, the backfeed. So also been a part of the Essex County CEAST that's dealing with homelessness. That's another part I have been part of, dealing with community organizations such as the Dayton Street Seniors, have assisted with them, the Dayton Street Block Association, and all the different other blocks associations. So I've been pretty much around dealing with the seniors as the Weekway Park Senior Organization, which we helped the county with the cafe in the park when the program was underutilized. We're using our own cars, making sure that the residents of the senior population was able to utilize this program and not be canceled. So there's a lot of different things that I have been a part of. So I'm part of the South Board, from the environmental side, from the side of dealing with the utility wires, from the side of dealing with homelessness. So I'm a part of the school system where we advocated for schools and children with their PTSOs. I joined them. But it's been so very hard to be part of these organizations because there's so much egos in these organizations, and it's hard to get things done when you join these organizations. So if they're not friendly to you, or they feel like you are outsider, you're really not a part of these organizations. So that's something I just want to fix. When I bring us together in the South Ward of Newark, I want to make sure that we understand that just because somebody comes to you, that you don't feel like they infringe upon you, and that we could work together in all these different areas of the South Ward. So I am a South Ward.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. And then we'll start back up with you because we're starting to wind down now. We're almost to the end. Mr. Freeman, will you be willing to assist in formulating block or civic associations?
Yes. One of the things I definitely want to do is there's a program where you can actually categorize them and put each block association into a database, right? So that's something that I already have started along with other organizations, is to come together of how do we get this information to the different block associations and make sure that they understand on what's going on in the community, how to register for different programs. So each block will have a membership card. That's something that we want to work on, and they'll have a thing that they could go to on the portal in the website and be able to see like what's going on in the community. Like back in the day, there used to be like these poster board alerts that you used to get doing that there was the choir was singing in the church or the children was having a play and all these different things. So we have to get back to understanding like who's on that block, what do they want, and that's how we bring and have these block associations feel as if they connected. See, a lot of block associations don't feel like they connect to the community anymore. And we're going to reconnect them. And that's by adding their link to our link and make sure that they understand that they are part of the South Ward and they're part of the South Ward Council office because their link is connected to our chain. And we're going to make sure that we all are linked together. And that's how we're going to continue it. And they'll know exactly what's going on through social media. If we have to go through the neighborhood with a bullhorn every week, we'll figure out how to get you informed that you don't say, nobody told me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. And now, Ms. Truitt-Reese.
Yes, how I would go about with block associations or for helping.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. Yes, I would assist. Yes, I definitely would assist block association beginning to get organized. I would, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. I would have me, myself, or an aide or aides, all of my aides would be not sitting in the office. They would be out in the community. We already have a list of some already established block associations. And that means we will also work with our police, community police officers, because they have a database for the established block associations, and we would go between those blocks that don't have one and go and speak with the residents and ask them what are their concerns, and tell them this is how you go about doing a block association. But I would more or less not just want to do a block association, but have district meetings within that block, so everyone from that district would know each other, because what affects one block affects the next block. It's a ripple effect. So if one street has a block association and the next block doesn't, I would try to get those two blocks to talk and establish a relationship between them and bridge those two to make it a bigger block association, because we already know the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if you have more than one that's chiming and discussing issues and concerns, that gives you a bigger audience to attract. So you have more homeowners and more renters or whatever that would want to be a part of something. And that would be a part of helping identify the issues and the concerns in that plague that community, and you have a bigger force to deal with it. So yes, I would definitely assist with helping build block associations or organizations to help beautify, identify, um, uh, community police each other. I definitely will be a part of that in bridging that and making that happen.
Thank you. Thank you. And then one final question before we get into the closing statement. So this is our final question that's been asked. What would you do to improve public safety in the South Ward? We'll start with Ms. Truitt-Reese.
Well, as being a member of the police community relations, that is what that is part of the mission. That is what the mission is of that organization, which is building a relationship between the police and the community. What I would want is to see more community policing, which means the community has to come together and they have to talk about the issues. They have to understand that the police are not here to hurt you. They're here to help you. I would encourage them to be part of the organization so they can have an open dialogue directly with the police captain, and they would know who their community police officers are. I will request to have more walking patrols to build that relationship. Get the police in the schools to bring back the DARE program for our youth to understand and understand the nature of the police department and what they are there to do. I would try to bridge relationships with the youth, with the homeowners, and just bring about more open dialogue with the community and police. And I definitely, what I did do when I was in office, for those residents that may have had issues and were scared to contact the police directly, I left my office open and they would be able to call me and discuss whatever issues they're having. And I would be the person that would relate those issues back to the police department and let the police department hear it from me. They would go and find out the issues of whatever I'm telling them, and they would bring it back to me. And then I would contact that homeowner or that property owner to tell them what was done within reason, to bring them, to keep them aware of the status of what's going on, so they would be able to understand.
Thank you very much. Mr. Freeman.
Thank you very much. Also, as a member of the community police of the South Ward Relations, one of the things that we're doing right now is we found out that there's a post for the Explorer program in the 5th precinct, but it's not active. So we're working on that for the children between the ages of 14 to 17 is to make sure that they have activities. That's one. One, we have to also include the infrastructure of the neighborhood. You know, when we talk about community policing, we must make sure that we understand what type of conditions are the residents living in. You know, some residents are living in neighborhoods with full of blight, right? So they have to make sure that they understand, you know, you have someone who cares for you. You have a community that loves you and that you're special to. And that's that uplifting feeling of understanding why the police are important, but also to make sure that we don't need to have so much of police involvement. We need community involvement. We need that the grandmother who passes out those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as years ago and just standing on the corner, making sure all the children okay. That's something that we have right now in practice. And that was in Weekway Park. Weekway Park had all these different issues from prostitution, drugs, individuals who was upset because they couldn't have sexual intercourse in the playgrounds, right? We don't have that anymore. What you have is a safe zone for the children. You know, there's over 600 residents coming into the park a day. And that's something that we want to do to the neighborhood now, is to make sure that we reach out to each individual resident. That's the one standing on the corner. That's the one nodding to see, you know, do you want to go to rehab today? Maybe you might want to pack your bags, because that was one of the things that we had a situation with on Bergen Street, where the fire department identified an individual. And we was able to tell this individual, look, if we can get you into a place today, are you willing to go get clean? And that person said yes. We called that person's house. The parent, because it was like a young adult, said, we've been waiting for this day. We said, look, you ain't got to pack them bags. The bus, that's when street doctor was around. You know, he passed away. We put him in the van, went up to New York, and the person's doing very well today. It's about having and caring about the people. And we must understand that when you care about individuals and we show that we're here for the community, community policing goes together with the community. If you have to hire 50,000 cops, something is wrong with the community. So that's when we have to rebuild our community first. And that's the infrastructure of people.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Okay, we've come to the end of our evening, and thank you, candidates. You've answered quite a lot of questions tonight, and I very much appreciate it. So now we'd like to move to 2-minute closing statements. And as part of your closing statements, I'd like you to address what is it that you would feel that you would do that the present council person has not done? So as part of your closing, what would you be doing differently than the present council person? So we'll start with Ms. Truitt-Reese and then Mr. Freeman.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity given to me this evening to speak with you and answer your questions. First, what I would do is I would show accountability. I would hold others accountable, just as I would be held accountable for what goes on, what doesn't go on in my ward. I would be the ear. I would be the voice for my community. I will no longer turn a deaf ear or a blind eye to the plight that's here. I would address it head on and address any other counterparts that need to be addressed. I will hold each and every department head accountable for staff or whatever is not being done per what is due my residents. I would give them the respect and the empathy that they deserve, and I will definitely be their voice. I would make appropriate decisions, not based on friendship, but based on business. I'm not one to go along to get along. I'm a stand-up person, and I will continue to be a stand-up person and be the voice that my community needs. And what's the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
What would you be doing differently than the other council people?
I'm sorry. Those are all the things that I would be doing differently. I would definitely, as I do now, I would ride my community so I can see up front myself the plight, the issues, what's going on in my community, and I would address them appropriately.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Freeman.
Can you repeat the question? I want to make sure I got the whole question.
Yes. Yes. This is your closing statement, and as part of it, can you address what is it that you would feel that you would do that the present council person has not done if you're elected?
All right. So I'm not one to talk about people. I'm one about solutions, right? So if it's not being done, we know it's not being done. Right? So that's something that first we have to identify. So we have to focus on what is the needs right now. One is cleaning up the South Ward. The second one is bringing people back together. So that's something that has not been. But what I will not do is if money is allocated for one area, I'm not going to take that money and put it to another area just because an organization was able to sit in on the planning and others may not have known about this, and they was able to take that money and put it to another district. So when you do these things, you actually makes the other district that money was actually allocated for, it depletes certain things that were needed, and they wind up being behind. I'm going to look for 50 years out. I mean, I'm already looking for my replacement, right? We're not to sit here and stay in office for years to come, right? We're looking 50 years out. That's to make sure that the airport city North Village is done, right? Not to try to take credit for certain things. Not saying that they did it, but I'm not going to take credit. Doug Freeman's not. Right? We're going to make sure that the person who brings in these ideas. The next one is when they put in for these RFPs. I want to make sure that there's some type of protection of intellectual properties for all the organizations don't go and look and see who put in bids and take their plans and then claim them as their own, right? And then turn around and make it seem as if these other organizations are incompetent or not able to do what they've done when you stole their plans and took their plans away. Because there's a lot of space that's available when you look at the procurement process. And then we have organizations that do good work. We have some families that may come together, and they may have individuals that come out of college and they got some great plans, but their plans go to these bigger organizations. So that's something that I definitely want to focus on. We want to look and see, like, in that procurement process, who put in bids and how these bids was given out throughout the community over the last 10 years of the South Ward of Newark, and why the Clinton Hill area has funded and why the Weekway section do not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. And I'd like to now bring this little candidates forum to a close. And I want to thank both candidates very, very much for taking the time to appear tonight and to answer the questions from the White Terrace, Clinton Place, West Runyon, Power to the People Civics Association. It's so important that you make yourselves available to the voters so they have an opportunity to get to know you in your positions, and I urge everyone who's listening tonight to get out and vote on May 10th. And I wish both candidates the very best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
all right. Have a great day.
Have a good